of fun talking to people about it.
Oh yeah, but it's like, there's so much content. I'm like, yeah, but the reality is, this isn't really reality.
No, that's really true too.
you know.
But we're going to talk about reality today.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
So this is GoingSoloMedia.com, WGSN-DB's Going Solo Network Radio, TV, and podcast #1 Internet Singles Talk Network, with Christine Baumgartner and Barry Selby talking about Let's Talk About Dating. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine. We're back again.
So today we're talking about, are you ready for a real relationship? And
Yeah.
I thought, when I was thinking about this subject, because, I have to ponder on stuff, I think it's important to talk about what a real relationship is, because I believe that people have a variety of definitions that are true for them. There are some false ones as well, but to talk about the false ones and then the variety of real relationships people can have, because it's not one size fits all ever.
Absolutely. And the thing, I mean, it's funny because one, we talked about, are you ready to date about
Yeah.
2-3 weeks ago? So that's
Yeah.
can make it into this one. And then I was on Clubhouse last night in a room. We do a Wednesday night room. And the topic was talking about casual dating. And even talking about that was like, okay, so what does casual dating actually mean to people?
Mm-hmm.
And there were probably, I think there were 8 of us moderators on the stage. Every one of us was different.
Mm-hmm.
So this about real relationship, it's interesting that just when we talk about, say relationship, put it on the table, people are going to point at it from 17 different directions. So it's important, I think, that we do qualify and clarify what we perceive as that for the context of the discussion. So when people ask, what are you talking about? We say, this is what we're talking about.
Because I think it's one of those instances where you look up a word in the dictionary and there's often lots of definitions that are the true definitions. It's not really just one frequently.
True. And also oftentimes in the dictionary, you look up something and the meaning is so, I don't want to say vague, but it has this spaciousness about it. So there's lots of things that can fit under the umbrella, so to speak.
And this is one of those for sure.
It is.
Spaciousness,
Absolutely.
I like that word a lot. There's spaciousness available in your definition of a real relationship.
Absolutely.
I think that's very cool.
I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Sorry. Okay, now I'm better.
Oh yeah, because mine's buzzing too, but sometimes I forget too when it goes off in the middle of the show.
I know. We'll stay focused.
Yes. So one of the things that I was thinking about in preparation to this is when often we say, oh gosh, in our age group, there's way more women than men. And there are, because men die earlier. And
thank you for that
earlier. Men have all these pics of all these, multitude and masses of women. Well, what's really interesting now I'm finding is, and I'm so curious to get your take on this, that the men in our age group, a great number of them, I'd say the majority, their idea of a real relationship is committed, living together, monogamous, full-time, married, not always, but as committed as you can be. And there's a huge contingency of women in our age group that are much more into a companion. That's real to them. They want somebody to go to the movies with, somebody to go to dinner with, maybe travel, occasional sex, but not living together at all, not commingling anything at all. And so here we have real from two different points of view. And so when I go back to the thing where, there's all these women for men, the pool's gotten smaller for the men that want this kind of a real relationship. So if you say, and people often online say, what are you looking for? So I am very specific with my words, because if you said real relationship, it could be completely misunderstood just in this one instance.
Absolutely. And again, last night we were talking about casual dating, and that companionship piece you talked about going to the movies and occasional sex. In that room, that's what casual dating is. So this term about real relationship and dating, they have this sort of intermingling or overlap where they don't actually mean, like sometimes one end of the spectrum on one means the other end of the spectrum on the other one. So a real relationship is going to be interesting. And yes, to answer your question, I'm just referencing who I know of my age group and above, most men and women, there are women I know definitely looking for, like, I want to say the one, but the loyalty and the intimacy and the commitment of a partner that is there for them completely, because they're either been lonely for too long, or they didn't have it the last time. Like they had a divorce that was messy because they were never that close to their husband, or they just simply decide that's the case. I do also know there are women out there who want companionship, and I do know men who want that too.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say necessarily it's exactly even, but it's closer than we think. Because yes, it's true there are more women than men as we get older, as not there yet, but as we're getting older. So understand, just put myself back in the box, so to speak. But at the same time, the ones that are choosing relationship, because there are also a lot of men I suspect who are just willing to be alone. They don't care. They just enjoy their life on their own, and they have no attachment. Especially when men's sex drive depletes, they're not as drawn to a partner for any reason. So they just do their own thing. They may get retired somewhere on their own or go to some sort of communal living. And there are men who are like, ravenously wanting sex too. So it's a very wide gamut, let's put it that way. And so I would say that it is probably more even numbers about how many women looking for committed real relationship as there are men looking for that. Because there's probably more percentage of men who are looking for that than there are women, because there is many more women. So the numbers do work out more, I'd say. Yes.
I think so too.
It's a long way to get to that answer, I know.
No, it was interesting. I really was curious what your thoughts were and what you had read and heard in all of your interactions, because both of us interact with singles professionally as coaching, and then also you on Clubhouse, me on my Zoom meetup groups. And it's really been fascinating to watch this shift.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been this way before at all in the single world.
Well, I mean, we've changed. I mean, just the last 25, 30 years, the culture has changed so much. I mean, smartphones alone with the dating apps and that ease of being able to find someone to hook up with, that isn't just reserved for the 20-year-olds.
No.
So, and it's because one of the women in my Clubhouse room last night, who's a coach, she's in her mid-60s and she's like as gung-ho for sex as she was when she was in her 20s. So there isn't exactly that. So that's the thing, is age isn't relevant to that. Ultimately, it might for some people because they buy into the belief, but for most of us, I don't think we think we're that old anyway. So why not have energy for that? So in that sense, I think there's a lot of possibility available. So I think this conversation we're going to talk about just how available real relationship is and what that requires. Because frankly, that's really what we're talking about here. And it is true that there's a spectrum of people out there who have a range of views on what it is and what they want from it. So let's break it down, shall we?
So there's the place to start, as always. What do you think? What do you want? What would fulfill your definition? What's your definition of a real relationship? So mine, I am in the camp of, I want committed, monogamous, close, intimate, daily being together, not 24/7. I like us having different interests, but I like the close. I like the how was your day? Been sleeping together, eating together, having your little inside jokes together. I mean, I don't find that easy or effortless with somebody that I'm not having a committed relationship with, that I'm seeing every single day. And I want that. That's the only thing that works for me as a real relationship. But I certainly hear other people saying different things.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because I've really gotten clear, because I've been single now for 16 years, that I'm okay with, one, because I had to learn this lesson. I think everybody should learn the lesson, is I have a really healthy relationship with myself and I enjoy being with myself. So relationship isn't filling a gap. I think I have. That's the biggest lesson I had to learn, I think, along the way. Other nuances too, but that's one of the biggest pieces. So I'm very clear now that I enjoy who I am and what I'm doing in my life. So if I have a relationship, it must add to that.
Yeah.
So it's got to be complementary in that sense. So whoever she is, and this is one of my qualifiers, which makes the online dating app so entertaining, is she's got to have done her own work. I've been, as I've said in previous broadcasts, not saying I'm special, but I've been so curious and a student of learning how relationships work and psychology and humanity and all those things. If I'm with somebody who's clueless about that, we aren't going to really meet in the middle. So she's got to be someone who's done her own work and walks her own walk. Because for me, that relationship which you talked about is very similar to what I want, is one that's really connected and close. And I want someone who's going to be on stage with me, like we're going to teach and speak together, which is a very specific ask, I know. But that's the level of what I'm looking for now, because I know, one, that's what works for me, and two, I know I can have it. Again, it's like we know when we look at a relationship, we say there's not that many efficiencies. Like all you need is the one that fits you. And so I know for myself, there is one out there, at least one out there who has those criteria, but definitely see the connection and the space, because that's what you were saying too, not all the time. And it's funny because when you said about sleeping together, part of me goes, I want to have a relationship with somebody where we have like our bed and then her bed and my bed. It's almost like have the space to sleep on our own, but also sleep together when we want to. So have that freedom, so to speak. So that's kind of my sort of minimal criteria in a way.
See, and look at there, you're very clear. And I have friends, I won't name anybody or even what we do, but I have friends that great intimacy in their lives, great sex. They have separate bedrooms. They don't sleep well together. Both of them have sleepy things that they do in the night that can disturb the other person, but they certainly spend lots of very close naked time together. So
right.
It's an option. If you want to read later or you like watching TV, and it's just, it doesn't, as long as you're still working out the intimate time together, the close cuddling, spooning, even if you fall asleep together and one of you gets up to go to wherever it is, how lovely is that nobody takes it personally. So there you are. There's another real relationship that not everybody would even have thought of, might have negative feelings about it, or would say, no, I just couldn't do that. Because I'm quite the cuddler. I do like cuddling. That's really kind of a thing for me. So I'd have to really think about, how would I do that? Could I do that? I don't know. I've not even thought about it before because it's not come up. But I like that we're at least expressing that people could go, oh, I never thought about that as an option. And it doesn't mean there's anything wrong, that our relationship is still healthy and growing and nurturing and lovely. And we just choose to sometimes, or all the time, sleep in different beds or different rooms. It could be perfectly fine.
Absolutely.
So I'm so glad you brought that up.
You're very welcome.
Well, I like someone who travels a little or has hobbies or interests that take them away, because I'm very content to do my alone time. I'm very content alone. I do know the enhancements that being married twice brought me, even with the person first time that was not really good for me, and the second person who was really good for me. I liked the committed marriage part that works for me. So knowing that, I said, that's what I tell people. I don't necessarily have to get married now, but I like that feeling of togetherness. It's very important to me.
There's something about that for me too. That I almost keep the word loyalty shows up. It's more than that. It's about a commitment level where you've got each other's backs.
Yes.
There's something so strong about that, because the real relationship for me has that depth in it where you don't walk, you take your time apart from each other, but you don't walk away from each other. It's like you make sure that the space it's like the container is sacred and is respected, and you may move apart inside the container, but you don't move outside that container.
Yeah. And for me, we have the same future in mind, a future together. We're building a future together. And I think that's really important. Even though you're sometimes doing separate things, you're doing it because it's going to make you a better person, that you went off and went fishing or you went to a retreat or whatever it is, that you're bringing back an even better self to this future that you're building with somebody. That's what I want to be first and foremost in both of our minds.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also say, frankly, that the idea of retirement doesn't make sense to me. like what we're doing here, this is like, I could do this. I would do this and all the work I'm doing in Clubhouse and everything else, and doing coaching and speaking. I plan on doing that until I'm dead, in the sense of that I'll go forever doing that. So to be with someone to settle down and retire with, that will never work for me ultimately. And the second thing also, you said about traveling, because that triggered something for me. Being from England originally, having lived in 4 countries, to be with somebody who hasn't, one, had a passport, or two, who lives in the same town they were born in, mean, if they came back after traveling, well, it's one thing, but if they've never left the town they grew up in, we aren't going to see eye to eye so much because the worldviews are different.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is on the list of what you want in a relationship. I know we're talking about that piece and sort of thing, but notice what you want as a partnership, because I want to be with someone that if we decide we want to go traveling, we both go, sure, no problems. We've done it before.
Yeah.
So that part of being commitment is that teamwork of being, and that is the word, teamwork, where we're together to do things. If it's going to be adventures going overseas, or it's going to do, going on a mission, or we're going to go feed people in another country, or we're going to go speak on stage in another country, whatever it is, or all the above.
Yeah, I was thinking that's so perfect for that. You can speak
Right.
on cruise ships, you can go speak in other countries. I mean, how fun is that? And then you go beforehand or afterhand and have this great, fabulous romantic vacation together at the same time. I mean, that's just the best of all worlds.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So these are all sort of things that, I mean, like the heading of real relationship, I know it's like we have certain structural points, but really it is important to know what you want in a relationship before we can start this conversation. That's the thing we talked about before, what do you really want? At the same time, then know what you want to bring to it too, because that's again about real relationship is how do you play together in that relationship?
Yeah. And play, that's so important too. You have to have, it can't all be serious, because I think sometimes when we put the word real, the reality, I think people think somewhere in their head it shifts them to be more serious. And part of the most fun times you can have together is when you're silly and laughing and goofy, and you make each other so beyond, I can't believe how much I'm laughing.
Right.
And this isn't all the time, but I have a really good girlfriend that when people say, have I met Joanne? I go, then you haven't, if you don't know, because she's my really funny friend. And her husband, they'd been dating about a month. And I said, so how are things going with the two of you? And she blah, blah, blah. And he said, she makes everything fun. I go, Joanne, it's who she is. Everything, I don't care what it is. It's fun. And so if you can add that in and make a point of it, there's nothing better grounding, I think. It's what helps you get through the harder times. So for me, that has to be a real part of my relationship, that we can be silly together and be playful together and make each other just feel completely relaxed and giddy and safe to be silly.
Absolutely.
That's a real relationship for me.
Yeah, because that thing about real relationship, definitely, you're not settling down, which is such a negative term in the first place. That whole thing. Yeah, exactly. So the seriousness of it, it's just like, no, to make it important doesn't mean making it serious. A real relationship is important. And the other part, as you're saying about where your friend has so much like joy that she brings to everything she does and more silliness and fun. When you come into a real relationship, what are you bringing? What are your specialities? What are your like bullet points of what your strengths are? Is it humor? Is it strength? Is it playfulness? Is it budgeting? Is it cooking? Is it like what? Just own what you bring, because a part of what being a relationship is know how much you contribute to the relationship. So for me, and the idea of having fun in the kitchen cooking together is like one of my highlights too. I mean, I'm not a master chef, but I'm getting pretty good at it. And having somebody who's even better than me, that'd be fun. And we play together. And there's such a sense of freedom. So the idea of playing in a relationship that's a committed, real relationship, absolutely agree. Yes.
So having somebody that accepts these things about you that could be quirks and idiosyncrasies, could be strengths, could be talents, and that you feel the same way about them. I had the most intriguing conversation with a man the other night. We were talking back and forth, and all of a sudden he said, I just want to tell you, I notice that you pause often before you talk. And I need to learn how to do that more. I really admire that. And I'm like, ooh, that was the right thing to say to me. It's like giving you a manual of what a thing to say to Christine. It's that.
Yep.
So to have somebody notice and compliment,
because that could have gone a whole different direction.
Yeah. It was lovely. I liked our conversation a lot.
Well, that's the other part too. I think in a real relationship is really to be, in some sense, you're like each other's cheerleader. Not, I mean, obviously not the pom poms going rah rah unless that's your kink. But in terms, I had to bring that one up.
Get out the costume closet, yes.
you're right. Well, hey, if you're in a committed relationship, you want to have fun with that, why not? But the sense of like you really are honoring and appreciating each other's differences and skill sets. So, yes, and that's why we have to take a break. So we'll come back with more in a minute, and we'll talk more about
We'll be
this.
right back. And we're back talking
Indeed.
about, are you ready for a real relationship and what real relationships entail in our minds and things we've heard from other people on Clubhouse and in our coaching time with our clients, because one size does not fit all.
Right. And the other part of that also, we shared already about a lot of things that make up what a real relationship is. Well, pretty want to speak about what those things are to be ready for that, because for a lot of people, I'm not sure if they're ready for the commitment level of being that invested with somebody else besides yourself. And also there's, when you're out dating and checking things out, you can walk away pretty easily, or you can, just tune out and do nothing else. But you're in a real relationship, that's not so easy to do unless you set up specific parameters where you and your partner choose. So I'm taking a month off just to be in our own space for a bit to do other things, which you can do as well. But recognizing there are things that you have to give up, so to speak, to be in a real relationship.
Yes. And some of that is, how willing are you to be vulnerable? And how vulnerable are you willing to be? Because I don't see a way to have a real relationship without both people being willing to be vulnerable.
I would say, yes, that's the case, but I see many marriages that didn't do that very well.
No.
So they didn't last that long either because of that. But that intimacy and vulnerability and true openness is definitely, for me, is a distinctive element of a real relationship. And it's something a lot of people are afraid of doing. To be that vulnerable, to be that seen, to be that node, to be that open and sidebar for a second. A lot of people, frankly, have been pining for that real relationship, the hurdle or the price to get into that, which is to be that open, that vulnerable, that's intimate, is something they basically are afraid to do because of past wounds.
Yes.
So one of the precursors to a real relationship is maybe go in for like have like a tune-up service with your local coach or therapist to make sure you're ready for that, because there could be stuff you're still carrying, baggage from old relationships or past errors, past mistakes, past wounds that you're still carrying that make the sanctity and the value of a real relationship hard to get into. You can have it, but are you willing to do the work to get there?
So true, which is why you say you do the work, and now you're looking for somebody, a woman that has done her work. And I feel the same way. I really want somebody that we all have heard, Christine's slow to warm up. I need to test and make sure that it's safe for me to be vulnerable, safe for me to share my heart. But when I'm in. So you will get 100% of me once I'm there. And so I am very available to give it. I just go at a slower pace than some people want me to, but that's just who I am. And their patience tends to pay off if they wait. So
Right.
where you and I are not saying at all that you just need to wear your heart on your sleeve because that gets you in trouble, or just be vulnerable to everybody because that gets you in trouble.
Yes.
The first question you ask is, could I be vulnerable with the right person? Really, could you? Have you ever? And when you were, how did you get there? And how did it feel? And what steps did you take to get there? Especially if it turned out to not be the right person, what steps do you need to adjust so that when you get there again, you've tested enough that you know that this is a safe person to do that with? And boy, that is something most people don't know how to do on their own at all, I have found.
I'd say most people aren't even aware that's what part of the problem is, or the challenge is.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, that's the thing is we're talking about. It is. I mean, it sounds so flippant to say. Like for me, it's like I know I've done a lot of work, not perfect, of course. I'm still on the planet, but I'm looking at our own work. That sounds like a big ask in a way, but I really know clearly that what I'm clear about. And it's interesting because I've been on the dating apps and had some conversation with different women on the dating apps and in real life and other people too. And sort of I can feel their upper limit, so to speak. Mm-hmm. How much they've expanded in their awareness and how much they've resolved and what they're not carrying. And some of the simplest things they say are so telling. So I know where I can say that's as far as I'm going to go with that one. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. So the understanding is that, and back to what I said earlier about the thing about being ready for a real relationship, is for me that I'm absolutely ready for a real relationship, but I'm also not impatient for it. That's another part, by the way, is that willingness to be patient, to willingness to wait, to definitely take action, but also not be desperate, which I used to be.
Desperate and lonely. Whoa.
No.
So if you think of, you want a real relationship. So you're looking for somebody that's real. Mm-hmm. So you have to say, how real am I willing to be? Yes. So one of the things I always say is, I tell 100% of the truth. I just don't tell 100% of the whole story always. I don't always tell all the most personal, intimate parts of it. But whatever I tell you will be the truth. I will be very real and open about, this part makes me uncomfortable. This part makes me happy. This part I really like. And I just don't share all the layers right away because that's not fair to the other person. And it's certainly not necessarily safe for me. But I'm very willing, and I'm very willing to continue to just be very real in what I'm saying and doing. And that's what I look for in the other person. And I hear that you say that too, because you're being very real and open. So you are looking for somebody that will give it back to you in return.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is, and I agree with you, yes, to have your heart and your sleeve out in the world, to be that vulnerable, transparently, that's a big ask and a big risk. It's not what we're talking about here, but definitely knowing that when you have the right person you're with, it becomes much easier to do that with them. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. And that's the part about doing the work, is that when you do your own work, and I am adamant about telling people to heal your own baggage before you get to that relationship. Yeah. Do them a favor of not dragging your baggage into that relationship with them. It's not their job to fix it. Much you might say, well, they're going to save me again, make me feel better, and they'll be my heroes. Like, no. Do the work beforehand. Resolve your past issues, make peace with past relationships, do what you need to do to be at peace. I mean, that's why we're single people all the time, because they're the ones that, when they choose it, are in the best place to do the work. So when they do find that real relationship, they can walk in with their eyes open,
Yes.
clear what they're about, and they can tell very quickly if this person is a match for them or not. Much healthier.
And it is the most freeing experience to be able to put your real self out there, that you don't have to keep, is it okay if I say this? Is it okay if I do this? Are they going to like me? Go for it.
Yeah.
Show them who you really are, and they're going to like you or not. Not
Absolutely.
everybody liked me when I was doing all my online dating before, but my late husband liked me a lot from the get-go. And it didn't matter what I did with my real self. I said, prepare yourself the first time we go on vacation because I bring lots of stuff. He's like, okay. And he's like the one little bag guy that packs in 15 minutes. And I get out my suitcase 3 days ahead of time and bring lots of stuff. And he's like, well, okay.
Yeah, but see,
really, but it was good that I told him that.
Well, I was going to say, but the thing is, that is one of the differences between the masculine and feminine. When you know that, it becomes totally acceptable. It's like, oh, no problem. Because if you don't get that, then you're like, why is she taking so long? Or why is he so damn fast? It's like, yeah, well, the judgment shows up.
Yeah.
When you understand certain things of this paradigm between masculine and feminine energies, you start going, of course, that's normal. I accept that.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, the first time we went overseas, because the first time we just went on one of those little 3-day cruises. But the first time he goes, okay, it's 3 days before. Do you want me to get the suitcase? Yep. It became his thing. He didn't make fun of me. He didn't give me a hard time. He's like, Christine needs all her suitcases lined up because she's going to do this for 3 days. Okay.
And he knows what to do about it, and he takes care of it. There's no issue. That's the way to do it.
It was lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. And so I will say out loud a thing that we women stress about, and I did too. So when I was married the first time, I'm not sure I told this story before. My ex-husband, even at home, we'd finish dinner and he'd go, you need to put lipstick on. So I was very conscious, and I do look really different without makeup on.
Mm-hmm.
So my big thing when I got divorced was, I'm going to find men that don't mind that I don't have makeup on. It was frustrating, and women know this. We think we need to go to bed with makeup on or get up and touch it up in the morning. It's so sad. But I did it. So I discovered that men were just fine. I'd wash my face, but my late husband, he would smile as I'd wash my face at the sink at night, and I'd put on some moisturizer, and I'd climb in bed, and he'd smell my face. He goes, I just love the smell of your face without makeup on. I'm like, oh. I asked for it in my head, and I wrote it on my list, and I got it in spades. So that was me being my real self. And I found a guy who thought it was fine that I wore makeup, but he really preferred me without makeup. Isn't that amazing? I went from one extreme to the other.
Well, yeah, but the first one didn't work out. The second one did.
Because I could be my real self, because that's part of my real self is made up. I like putting makeup on. It's fun. I've liked it since a kid. I like how I look. But also, I don't want to go to bed with makeup on. That's a whole nother part of me that I want to be able to reveal. It's another very vulnerable part of me as a woman. And boy, if I can't reveal that part of me, I'm not going to be as open and vulnerable in lovemaking.
Right. It's funny. I'm just reflecting on some of our relationships. And most of the women I'm just thinking, no. Several of the women I was in past relationships with over the years, didn't wear much makeup. They wore some makeup, but not like massive packs of it. And because I know some women live in LA, lots of that happens, where where basically look at what do they look. I wonder what when you start saying, I wonder what they look like without makeup. They're wearing a lot.
Yeah.
But being with women that had minimal makeup, so when they weren't wearing makeup, yes, their lips weren't as emphasized, for example, or their eyes weren't quite as elaborate, but they still looked very attractive.
Yeah,
was definitely something I appreciated, and of course is on my list as well. But that's the thing is, it's understanding those pieces. It really is getting clear about, when you're ready for a relationship, what is it you want to have in that relationship? What do you want to have in your partner? We talked about this in other talks. What are the qualities you're looking for? What's your list like? Do you have a vision of what you want to create in a relationship? Who do you want to be with? What do they bring to the relationship that you want to be with? What do you bring that you want them to appreciate? It's like all these pieces of the puzzle are part of that not pre-qualification, but preparation for that real relationship.
And how do you want to feel, especially women?
Oh,
How do you want to feel when you're with them? How do you want to?
Yeah.
I mean, I have discovered with so many conversations back to back to back to back with different men, it's immediate or it's not. And this is
Yep.
on the phone.
Yep.
It's immediate or not. That I feel comfortable, at ease, relaxed, or I'm having to work really hard. It's fascinating to me. Fascinating. I just never know until we're on the phone together, which is why I'm like, let's get on the phone right away, because boy, this is really helpful for me. Because my instinct and my intuition knows. It's fascinating. And it has so, I'm not going to say zero, but so little to do with what they look like or what they do. It's the ease. And I really believe it's part of the ease they feel in themselves. Wouldn't you think that from a guy's point of view? Do you feel that from women? Can you tell when we're more at ease when we're talking to you?
Yeah, there's a different vibration.
Mhm.
It's like when a woman's not at ease, I can feel that like jangling energy when she's like, when it's not that comfortable, that relaxed, where it just comes. It's almost like different harmonic waves in a way. It sounds very fancy to say it that way, but that's what it feels like. And it was funny. I was talking about this. I had 3 podcast episodes that I want to drop this week, so I'm like, remember which one I was on. One of those I was talking about was about the way that men and women are attracted to each other in general themes. And I said that basically that men are attracted visually, women are attracted energetically. Because what you were saying is ways that you can tell when you speak to a man if you can feel relaxed with him or not.
Mhm.
And definitely move off the text to call or video as soon as you can, what as you said.
Mhm.
But also for us men, we're drawn to women visually. And yes, it tends to start with how they look, because that's what visual starts with. But it's more actually in this thing I talk about, and I've discovered this is really true. It's more that it's how they present their energy. So yes, makeup's part of it. And living in LA, there's a lot of surgical improvements women have done. Men have done it too, but women have done too, to look a certain way. But it's funny when I've met women like that, I can almost tell when it's been done because their energy has been lowered. It's something very interesting. I'm not saying it's a far and rule, but I've noticed quite a lot of women, because they invest their energy in looking a certain way by having surgery done. So it means that their energy has been like brought in to focus on that point of their body. So their energy isn't as radiant, their light isn't as bright because it's been refined.
That's fascinating.
I didn't, until I said that, I didn't realize it, but I'm saying they go, yeah, that's what it was. So I'm not against plastic surgery, because there are certain women sometimes have done that work, but it's more about, do women take care of themselves? I go and hike and walk every day. One, because I make sourdough bread, so I've got to work it off. But secondly, I want to take care of myself. I want to be with somebody who does that too.
Yeah.
So when I meet someone, see the picture in the dating apps where a woman is clearly not in what I could say good shape, and I'm not judging this and saying that they're not taking care of themselves. It's kind of overt. I can see it. And so men being drawn to a woman visually is how do they radiate their light? How do they present their energy? Do they embody themselves, or are they hiding behind a wall? But I've seen that also in dating apps and in meeting women in person, where they have the barricades up. They may be physically standing in front of me, but the barricades are up and I can't even feel their energy. So I can't even see the radiance. And on the other side, yeah, and for women, like you're saying, but with men, is I suspect the men you feel more relaxed with are the men who feel grounded in who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who are more solid. You can rely on them. They're trustworthy. Because
Well, yeah. 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 They seem, it doesn't feel like they're having to put themselves on for me.
right.
And it's going back to the topic, it's how real am I being and how real are they being? Now, of course, everybody's a little nervous and kind of excited if you're talking to somebody new, and especially if you think they're cute. So own that that's part of your reality. You are being real. You are being really nervous. You are being really excited. You are being a little nervous. But own that you're being real. Because I think that's when things get staticky, is when we're like, well, I shouldn't be nervous, or I'm not going to tell them I'm nervous. Because
or trying to best behavior sort of thing. Yeah, exactly.
yes, which feels really false vibrato. And I've had a couple guys that were nervous when we met, and they told me, and I thought it was quite charming. It didn't feel weak. It didn't feel, there was nothing I had no negative feelings about it. I felt totally positive about it.
Well, the thing is, they were being honest because they were saying they were nervous. And there's the other part is that if for the men and for the women, if you feel nervous, to try and hide it, pretend it doesn't happen, is lying. Yeah. So you want to be real. You don't want to lie. So absolutely be honest about it, saying, I don't feel this way, or I feel uncertain, or I'm not sure what to say, because that's the truth. Because truth wins every time, as far as I'm concerned.
Every time.
Yeah.
The truth will set you free. That is a very famous.
I heard that somewhere. Yes. But that's what a real relationship is. Yeah, is honest.
So you want to have a real relationship, start out figuring out who the real you is. Because depending on what's happened to you in your life with your growing up and your past relationships, often we felt we needed to manipulate ourselves and we needed to hide our light under a bushel, right? We needed to not be our truest self. So it's not too late, and it's really a good time to get reacquainted with who you are really now.
Absolutely.
Who's your real self? Because then you can have a real relationship. But that's one of the biggest ways to get ready, is to get clear about, I'm a homebody, I'm a wayward traveler, I want religion in my life all the time, I sleep with my dogs. I mean, whatever it is of who you are and what's really important to you, own it, wear it proud and loud, say who you are, because the right person is going to go, oh, yeah, oh boy, I want more of that. And the people that it doesn't fit, you don't want to be with them anyway, because I did that in my first marriage. I covered up who I was a lot. And it was so refreshing to be single and not care. And then to get married to somebody who encouraged me, be more of that. I like that. You could be more of that. So how cool is that, right?
Oh, the amount of contortion that people have done to be in relationships, and I did for a certain time myself, to try and be something else for somebody to make them happy. Meanwhile, I was suffering. It did. Yeah. I mean, I could look at it as being altruistic, like I'm doing it to help them out. It's like, yeah, but where do I benefit from that? No. So absolutely, you want to be right to be yourself, because if you are yourself, first of all, you don't have to put any act on. When you meet somebody who sees you as you really are, it's so much easier. Mm-hmm. And ideally, if they like you the way you are, you don't have to do anything to perform to be something different. Because performing somebody else to be happy, that person in a relationship, is just so messed up. So you want to be yourself. Ideally, they do too. So when you're both naturally yourselves, you can have a real relationship. Yeah. Know who you are as the real you. Definitely is a good place to start.
It's exhausting to try to not be yourself, I found.
So make it easier and be yourself, much easier.
Now, if you found that there's something that keeps getting in your way and people have a bunch of people in a row have a problem with it, well, then you could talk to somebody about that. I mean, really work on it, have a conversation with somebody who goes, there's 4 other ways to still be your real self, but maybe not quite exactly like that. So isn't that something to really talk to a coach or a therapist about? Because you need to know your options. You need to know there's other ways of still being real.
Absolutely. And I have to know of a couple of good coaches you can work with.
Yes. And the way that you talk to us is.
Ta-da!
Yeah, as a matter of fact. So the way to talk to me is through my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com, and fill out what's holding you back from love. And then you can make a complimentary conversation with me that's private and personal. And we'll talk about the challenges that have come up for you not being able to be the real you, because I'm a big proponent of being the real you. And you can also send me a private email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And you can see my videos and sign up for my newsletter through Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Instagram and
Twitter and YouTube.
This time I forgot 2 places.
Oh.
I am losing my mind a little today. And Barry, please tell people how they would get a hold of you.
So if you want to talk to me, you can go to my website and make it easier. All my stuff is all my name. So my website is barryselby.com. And on my website, there is on the front page, you can either, at the bottom of the screen, you can join my email list right there. At the top of the screen, you can click on the button to sign up for a discovery session. Same idea, where we can have a private conversation complimentary. That if you want to get some help, I can help you with that. And really see if you want to navigate how we can figure out what real relationship is to you, what it is you want to get, what's in the way, then how you can get there. So my website also has a bunch of other things in it, my offerings, my programs and everything else. If you want to check out my other stuff, I have a YouTube channel which is full of videos, 1,400 and counting. Yeah, a lot of videos out there. But all my social media, apart from Instagram, which is the real Barry Selby, all my other platforms are Barry Selby. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, as I said, Pinterest and Clubhouse are all Barry Selby, so you find me there. And if you do follow me on Clubhouse, I am very active there, so you can check out and have a direct conversation with me on the platform. And something I just launched as of this past weekend because of the inspiration of a friend of mine. I've set up something that I'm just going to say here is an invitation. If you have like individual questions you want to send to me, I've set up a Patreon page. This is a new idea that's come up to me. Is basically a cup for a price of a glass of wine a month, or a cup of coffee depending where you go. You can ask me questions over email and through the apps. So if you go to patreon.com/Barry Selby, you can check it out. There's different tiers you can join in at. It's an experiment, and if it works, it works. And if you like it, you can use it. If you don't, it's okay too. So, but again, everywhere else is Barry Selby on all my social media platforms, and I love to help.
The name of that thing again, because I didn't understand it.
Patreon.com. It's like Patreon, but with an E in it. And yeah, and it's actually a platform that a lot of YouTubers use. I didn't know you could use for anything else, but a friend I was talking to on Saturday at dinner said, "Oh, by the way, he does Tantra teaching, so he has a Patreon platform." Said, "That's what you have to do." I said, "Yeah, okay." So I did.
Cool.
Yeah.
You're always so cutting edge, Barry.
I'm catching up.
Well, to learn all the new things about dating and setting up new platforms, we hope that you'll join us next week at 1 o'clock Western and 4 o'clock Eastern and all the times in between. And let's talk about dating with Barry and Christine, because we are fascinating people.
We are indeed.
And we're very real.
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. See you next week.
Bye for now.
Bye.